In this opportunity, we will learn about the El Salvador localization for Dynamics 365 Business Central. The El Salvador localization can be installed directly from the app source. This means that our location is certified by Microsoft Best Practices. By installing the localization, we are going to bring different fields and functionalities that will allow us to comply with each one of the fiscal requirements demanded by the fiscal entity of El Salvador. A little bit of what we will see in the presentation would be the general parameterization of suppliers and customers with reference to the fiscal characterization fields, a little of the operative transactional flow in a purchase invoice, and to see the behavior of the withholdings, and to see the behavior of the ISR withholdings and VAT withholdings, as well as their withholding statements. We browsed a bit through the electronic timbrates, the different timbrados that we can issue, and then we focus on the reports and reporting section. And reporting. To start, let's go to the purchasing module and enter our supplier master. In our supplier master, apart from all the standard information that we set up for the supplier, we are going to be able to characterize in a fiscal way our supplier, indicating the type of identification, whether it is a unique identity document, NID, passport, other, etc., or residence card. These are the types of identification legal today in El Salvador. We will also find the ISIC code of economic activity that we can capture in our suppliers. Also, the type of taxpayer, if it is a large taxpayer, if it is a medium-sized taxpayer, or if it is another taxpayer. The type of person, if it is natural or legal. In addition, we will find out if this supplier transports or sends us merchandise or goods or foreign trade, in which we are going to be able to link the fiscal precinct. Here we can visualize it. The different fiscal precinct codes, the customs regime codes, the transport code, and the uncontainable code. We will also find that we will be able to relate the different withholdings, both VAT withholdings and income tax withholdings, as well as income tax withholdings. As a suggestion, we set it up on the supplier's file. And when I am executing a purchase document and I call this supplier, the system will suggest the withholding previously configured. Remember that this can be modified within the document. In this section of retentions, we are going to be able to create the different codes that we need and we want in the localization. For the example, I have two codes, the 10% and the ISR withholding code 20%. Likewise, in the VAT withholding codes, we are going to be able to create as many codes you need. Okay? Now let's go to our customer's file. In the customer file, we are also going to find the tax characterization fields, the type of identification, the type of taxpayer, the type of person, the codes of transport, foreign trade, and also, as a suggestion, the different withholdings. In addition to this, we have a table of third parties in which we will be able to link the different third parties that are not part of customers and are not part of suppliers, but we require some movement with these third parties. We will be able to link these third parties in this section. In the product file, we are going to be able to relate what would be the additional tax to the product. For example, this product transacts with a general VAT rate of 13%. An additional, we will be able to link that additional tax. For the example, I have the 5% excise tax, and this product transacts in parallel with the general the general 13% excise tax. Okay? Now let's create a purchase invoice and see the behavior of the different withholding codes. Let's link the supplier and the invoice number. In this case, it will be 0501. And we are going to be able to link, in this case, and for the example, 2 products. Okay? With quantities of 180 respectively. The different withholding codes are already given directly from the supplier's file. However, if I want to modify them within the document, I can do it without any inconvenience. This is the way to suggest. Note that the different codes can be linked per line. That means that the first line, for example, may correspond to a service that has a 20% ISR withholding, and the second line of an item that corresponds to the 10% withholding corresponds to the 10% withholding on the same invoice. Okay, we can do this. We are also going to include the additional tax that is given directly from the product file. It also inherits the different foreign trade fields to be able to link them in the invoice. Once we have verified that everything is correct, we are going to indicate a preview. E will show us different movements. We are going to go to VAT movements, and in VAT movements we see that for each line it shows me the calculation of the withholding. In this case, the 10% showing me a base, an amount, the ISR withholding code, and the percentage. Thus, with each one of the withholdings, an additional tax. In accounting movements, it shows me the distribution of the different amounts to each of the accounting accounts. Okay, for example, 10,640 corresponding to the VAT withholding of 1%. It sends it to that accounting account that I previously set up. This means that this part is totally parameterizable. We indicate to the system to which accounting accounts we want each VAT. I want each one of the VATs to travel. Okay? Once we have verified the VAT movements, accounting movements, we can also visualize what would be the movement of the supplier, the account payable. That already takes the calculation, adding in this case the VAT and subtracting the different withholding concepts. We are going to register so that the invoice will be saved in the system with this number. And immediately we are going to make the payment of this invoice. Then we go to Treasury, to Payment Journal. We go to General. We link the supplier. We liquidate the movement, and here we are going to look for it. Here we have it. We mark it. It can be the total or partial payment. In this case, I am going to pay the total, and I register the payment. Once I register the payment correctly, I am going to go to the LLB El Salvador tab or menu. Here we are going to find several pages to navigate through the functionalities that we have developed. For example, we will have the history of VAT withholdings, income tax withholdings, third parties, reports, and remission histories. In the history of withholdings of VAT withholding history, we will find that of VAT withholdings being the state paid. When I get paid, the invoice is fully paid. Here I get a detailed numbering or series, the number of documents related to Business Central, the number of the supplier, the status, a base amount, and a withholding amount. If I indicate in Actions Print, it will show me a report of the VAT withholding certificate. where it quickly details the affected sales, the withholding voucher, the series, and the VAT withholding and the total to be paid. Likewise, we will be able to visualize the ISO withholding history, showing me the information, supplier, series, date of registration, and others. In the status, we will also find paid when the invoice is paid in full, and issued when that invoice is made. A credit memo, or partially paid. Okay, showing me base amount withheld and so on. We are also going to be able to link the ISR withholding statement. Okay. Another type of document that we can issue in the purchase module, apart from invoices and purchase orders, are purchase debit notes. While it is true that this type of document not come as standard in Business Central, we have developed to be able to create different debit notes. Both the working documents as well as the history of the debit notes registered. In the debit notes, it is a document similar to the invoice. We will be able to relate the invoice. We are going to be able to relate the different codes of retentions. And previously, we will be able to make a record. And this record will be stored in the recorded purchase debit notes, okay? What can we recreate? The different movements. Okay? Now we are going to create a sales order to see the behavior of the remittance notes. And different documents to stamp electronically. Let's enter a sales order. Select a new order and link the customer's name. That's it. In the header, we will find the different types of documents that we can issue, that we are going to be able to issue, being by default an invoice. But if we require a tax credit voucher, an export invoice, an invoice of excluded subject, then we will simply be able to link that type of document so that it is registered and we can do the electronic stamping. We are also going to find a button for the remittance guide, which we are going to activate so that this sales order to generate a remittance note. Here I am going to link the different items, and we will also find sales module, the different concepts of withholdings and additional tax also in the sales module. We are also going to be able to find the foreign trade goods transportation field. Okay, once verified, we are going to indicate register and we are going to ship those items. We already generated the shipment of this sales order. And now we go to our LLB menu. We go to referral history. And in this section, we will find each of the referral notes that are generated from orders, from invoices. And we are also going to be able to generate referral notes from transfer order, which is the transfer of our merchandise from warehouse A to warehouse B to a warehouse B. We are going to find the identification number, the customer's name, the number of documents related to Business Central, the waybill number, and the different electronic stamping buttons. Okay, let's go back to that sales order. And that sales order, finally, we're going to record the B invoice. Okay, we're going to record that sales invoice. We are going to indicate over here in preview to check that everything is correct, and we are going to register this order to an invoice for the electronic stamping of the sales invoice. The fiscal entity asks us for different information that must be related to this sales invoice. related to this sales invoice. For example, it asks us for the code of economic activity that if we wish, we can add it in the client so that the invoice already in the invoice, so that it is already predetermined in the invoice. We are also, for example, the payment terms should be related to the different, have the relation with the different catalogs of payment terms of the DGA, of the DGII. Okay, in this case I have the different payment terms in Business Central, and I will be able to relate those codes from GII codes that I require them, requires at the time of stamping. Okay, here I link it. That code is already in the invoice that I am going to generate. Also, for example, the unit of measurement, the economic activity, the zip codes, and so on. Okay, I'm going to register the invoice for this order, and I'm going to go to the sales invoice history. Okay, in the sales invoice history, we are going to see all the information or all the invoices that we have made, both the different documents, invoice, tax credit, and so on. Is it okay? The way to do the stamping will be from the external part by indicating start and send to electronic stamping, or by entering the document and make the stamping directly from the invoice history. In this case, I will indicate it here, and the system will generate the XML that will take the information previously loaded or configured in the sales invoice. Is it okay? It tells me that it was sent correctly because now I find the test environment. The logic is as follows: that stamping travels to our technology provider. The technology provider has the direct connection to the fiscal entity, and it returns what would be the UID number. In the case that the stamping is successful, or if there is some kind of error, we will be able to visualize that error. We will also be able to visualize the stamping date and time, and a validation that the document is in use. Also within the document, we will be able to visualize what would be this information. Is it okay? UID stamping, error code, and so on. We are going to be able to stamp not only sales invoices but also tax credit vouchers. We are also going to be able to stamp export invoices, sales debit notes, which are also Business Central brings it to us as standard, and we have developed this type of document that we will be able to send, that we are going to be able to send to electronic stamping in the same way. The same applies to sales credit notes, that we are also going to be able to stamp electronically, okay? As well as what would be the review note and the necessary documents for that stamping or those electronic stampings. Now that we have finished with the sales and the stampings, we go to the reports and report section. We are going to have the general ledger, the purchase ledger, the sales ledger, the VAT withholding and income tax withholding book, and income tax withholdings. All our books and reports can be exported to Excel, and also set different filters for the report. For example, here is a date filter. If I want to filter the supplier, I can do it and send it also to Excel from the standard send to Excel option, which generates my Excel document here that briefly is already opening. And we are going to be able to visualize this income tax withholdings report in Excel format to analyze or see all the information of this report. Okay. And we are going to be able to circulate it or expand it, and it will show me this income tax withholding report with the necessary information. Okay, let's pick another report at random, for example, the purchase book. And to this one, we are going to indicate a preview and all the columns that we can visualize because they are the ones required by the tax authority. The date of issue, purchases if they are local, international, recorded, exempt, excluded, and so on. Okay, I invite you to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell. Also, if you want to learn more about who we are and what we do, I invite you to visit our website. What we do, I invite you to visit our webpage, where you will find the different services that we offer, such as locations, the different locations that we are currently handling. We will also find information about our flagship product, LLB Retail, the point of sale, trainings, webinar, and much more. Thank you and see you in a future installment.